Hey everybody, my name's Will and today I'm coming at you from the mountain town of Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, this is an awesome community for outdoor recreation, and a lot of visitors to Flagstaff say that it almost feels more like being in the Colorado Rockies than anything they expected to see in AZ. Flagstaff's home to a lot of national parks enthusiasts too. The south rim of the Grand Canyon's only about an hour's drive away from here, and there's 5 other national parks within a 5 hours drive of Flagstaff as well. But what many visitors to Flagstaff don't realize is that there's actually 3 national park sites right here in town called the Flagstaff Area National Monuments. Walnut Canyon National Monument, Sunset Crater Volcano National Monument, and Wupatki National Monument all showcase this region's unique geologic and cultural history, and today we're gonna go check them out, so let's get started.
Now before we start exploring, I want to discuss the difference between a national monument and a national park, and it mostly lies in how they're created and managed. National parks are created by a vote in Congress, and all of them are managed by the National Park Service. National monuments, on the other hand, can be created either by an act of Congress or by a proclamation by the President, and they're managed by a wide variety of agencies, including the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and others. There are currently 133 national monuments in the United States, and 86 of them are managed by the National Park Service. Most national monuments get far less public visitation than the big national parks too, so they often offer a bit more solitude that I feel like a lot of people hope for when they visit national parks. With all that being said, let's get started with the first national monument we're going to talk about today, which is Walnut Canyon, located just east of town. This monument protects more than 80 preserved cliff dwellings built into the walls of the canyon by the Sinagua people, a native culture that lived in the area during the 12th and 13th centuries. The architecture here is really inventive. The people built structures underneath natural limestone ledges which acted as permanent roofs for the dwellings. Most of these cliff dwellings served as storage sites for tools, food, and water, but many of the larger dwellings show signs that people actually lived in them, such as smoke-stained walls and ceilings where residents built fires more than 700 years ago. The main hike at Walnut Canyon National Monument is the Island Trail, a 1-mile round-trip loop that descends into the canyon where you can actively explore many of the cliff dwellings preserved here. This hike is a bit tougher than it sounds thanks to all the stair climbing you'll be doing on the way back up, but it's part of what makes visiting this monument so unique. The fact that you're allowed to walk into many of the cliff dwellings gives you an appreciation for the fact that this is a place where people actually lived. And one question that often gets asked when visiting Walnut Canyon is why would people choose to live here? Well, there's many compelling reasons. Archaeologists have identified 5 prominent fort dwellings at strategic areas in the canyons that probably made the site highly defensible, and Walnut Canyon itself is home to a uniquely diverse variety of plant life that has a lot of practical uses, which may have made it a desirable place to live. The residents of Walnut Canyon moved out of these dwellings sometime around 1250 AD for reasons that archaeologists and anthropologists still don't fully understand. The traditions of the Sinagua people still live on today in the lives of their modern descendants, mainly the Hopi tribe who live northeast of Flagstaff. Hopi pottery, language, and oral traditions show a consistent link between them and the people who called Walnut Canyon home nearly a millennium ago. Visiting Walnut Canyon offers an awesome opportunity to see how the Sinagua people thrived in such a rugged environment. Now let's shift our focus to another awesome site nearby, Sunset Crater Volcano National Monument. Sunset Crater Volcano is a cinder cone that's pretty young in terms of geologic time. The volcano is believed to have erupted sometime around 1085 AD. This volcano is named Sunset Crater because of the cap of oxidized red rock at the top of the cinder cone, which gives it the distinctive appearance of the setting sun. Sunset Crater Volcano was actually made into a national monument to stop a Hollywood production company's plan to literally blow up the volcano for a special effects shot in the 1928 film Avalanche. Harold Colton, one of the co-founders of the Museum of Northern Arizona, got wind of this plan and organized a campaign to encourage President Herbert Hoover to grant federal protection to the site, which he accomplished in 1930. Part of what's cool about exploring here is that the eruption was relatively recent, so you can see all the impacts it had on the landscapes around it, and how ecosystems recover in the wake of such an intense geologic event. There's trails where you can walk through the cooled rocky remnants of what was once a fiery river of lava. This ecosystem was also in the process of revegetating, and it's fascinating to see aspens and pine trees growing in a landscape that looks like it'd be hostile to any sort of life. The eruption also left behind vast cinder fields that look and feel so alien that NASA believed they were the perfect place to replicate the geologic conditions of the moon. In 1967, Apollo 11 astronauts trained near Sunset Crater Volcano to practice using the equipment and logistics they'd need to perform the first lunar landing 2 years later. The main trail near the volcano is the lava flow trail, which is completely paved, but if you take a right when you see this weird tree, you'll start on an unpaved path that has much fewer crowds and more opportunities to explore this unique landscape. The Lennox Crater Trail also starts around here and offers even more solitude, but unfortunately that trail is closed for maintenance at the time of this video's recording. Nevertheless, that shouldn't stop you from visiting Sunset Crater or the monument immediately north of it, Wupatki National Monument. Wupatki is probably my favorite of the Flagstaff Area National Monuments. Like Walnut Canyon, it protects the architectural remains of an ancient indigenous community, but the structures here are very different. Wupatki is located immediately north of Sunset Crater Volcano. As you drive north on Highway 89, you descend to lower elevations and the forested highlands give way to a vast desert. This land used to be much more lush and rainy than it is today though, and in the 1100s, shortly after the volcano erupted, the ancestors of the modern Puebloan tribes like the Hopi and Zuni settled this land and began building a community around corn and squash production. They also began building permanent structures around here, the largest of which is Wupatki Pueblo. This pueblo has more than 104 rooms and served as the focal point of a major agricultural community in the region. It was also probably the confluence of major pre-contact trading routes. Artifacts such as shells from the Pacific Ocean and scarlet macaw remains from the Yucatan have been found here, suggesting that people came from far and wide to trade with the people who lived here. Wupatki is also the site of the northernmost ball court in the Western Hemisphere. These structures were historically used as gathering places for ceremonies and sporting events, but they're much more common in ancient Mesoamerican civilizations like the Maya city of Chichen Itza. It's pretty unusual to see one built by the ancestral Puebloans of northeastern Arizona. While the Wupatki Pueblo itself is the most visited archaeological site at the National Monument, it's honestly also the most inaccessible. Most of Wupatki Pueblo is cordoned off to prevent tourists from damaging the structure, but some of the other pueblos throughout the land of the monument can be freely explored though, such as this pueblo, called Wukoki. It's located just a few miles off the main road, and when I visited on a Saturday afternoon, I was literally the only person who bothered to check it out. It's extraordinary to walk through the open doors of an ancient structure, peer out the windows, and imagine what life might have been like for the people who built them. It's humbling to touch stone walls and wooden support beams that have been in place for nearly 1,000 years and reflect on the fact that I live in a state that's existed for just barely over 100. If you visit Wupatki properly and respectfully, it's a place that'll really inspire some reflection. The Flagstaff Area National Monuments do a great job of showcasing what makes this part of Arizona so unique. The cultural and ecological history here feel truly distinct from the rest of Arizona, and even the rest of the United States, and they're well worth seeing for yourself if you're ever driving down to Flagtown via Old Route 66. If you've ever been to these monuments, let me know which one is your favorite in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and grab a bite at the Diablo Burger downtown too. They put their burgers on like a little English muffin. I've never seen anything like it, and it's pretty good.